This week I once again downsized my mindset when it comes to SUVs, getting behind the wheel of this kind of small offering. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now this week it is the 2016 Chevy Trax, and one way to really get to know a vehicle is to hit the road. Don't get confused with the Trax because it's not a crossover vehicle, but specifically a small SUV. Now with that comes a lot of SUV offerings, first starting at the top. Now what I like is these nice rails, really allowing you to put some cargo up here. Now one thing I don't understand is it doesn't automatically come with the crossbars, something that's an option on a lot of SUVs. Now what I do like with this design is the fact that these are raised off the roof. Even on a Chevy Tahoe, this was totally solid. That prevents you from really feeding lines through here like we did during a week-long stint, putting a Christmas tree up here and roping it down. On a lot of vehicles, this is solid and really prevents that. Diving into this area just a little bit more, one thing that's a problem when you do not have the crossbars is the fact that the roof is going to handle all the cargo, just like the tree. Now we've protected the roof with some fabric, but that's really not the ideal way to do it. So what I want to see happen is really the SUV market, when these rails are included, the crossbars are included just the same. One thing with crossovers is they're blending that sedan and SUV like qualities here, more specifically SUV. Now what you're going to find is the added ground clearance around about 6 inches. Now that compared to a full size, that's going to creep up to around about 8 or 9, but decent numbers to get you off the ground and even give you better visibility when you're behind the wheel. Now what's also great is this lower rubber cladding, really helping you if you want to go off-road, because after all, this does come in an all-wheel drive model. That rubber cladding sweeping down and even go around the wheel wells. Lastly is the wheels. Here we're sitting on small 16-inch wheels, but you can get the 18-inch option. When you look around this vehicle, you'll see an enormous amount of glass, even on a small vehicle like itself. First place really on the driver's door, that small little porthole there. Now there is no blind spot awareness on the mirrors, but I really found it wasn't needed because this vehicle, again, is quite small. Really easy to look over your shoulder and see if anyone's there. Now as you sweep down, tons of glass, really separated with a broad kind of mid-trim here, and even a smaller back glass, giving you almost a 360 view all the way around. Now one side effect of that is a greenhouse-like effect. When we're going down the highway, the sun on this side really heated up this side of the vehicle versus the other half. When you sweep around to the front, this is where Trax delivers a little bit bigger attitude when it comes to its grille warfare, specifically with that oversized chrome grille and the contrasting lower black fascia. Now the headlights are pretty much straightforward, but it contrasts quite nicely with this kind of sculpted hood. Now the hood reminds me of the HHR, a little bit of a design. Now what's great is it keeps this vehicle from looking totally minimalistic by delivering a little bit of sculpting up front. We talked about the chrome up front, and again on the side, really just along this little accent here is about the only thing you're going to find. Otherwise, body color all the way around, right down to the door handles. Now, one thing I really would prefer is the smart key system when it comes to this vehicle, really allowing you to keep this key in your pocket. Instead, when you get inside this vehicle, you got to do the old traditional. Now, when it comes to fill-ups, that's made fairly simple. One reason, this never locks. This is always open to the elements. Now, what I prefer here, this to be locked and to go with a capless system. Now sitting around to the back to look at the cargo. We recently test drove the Nissan Juke. Now that's a really sculpted vehicle. One area we didn't like was at the back end. Now that was a lot more slope back here, prevented the really access of getting a lot of cargo in here. Instead, what Trax does is square it off just a little bit better, really providing a lot of interior volume. Now as we sweep down, a lot of body color until we get to the bumper. Now that's one area I like to see replaced, put body color here, because otherwise it looks like an awkward piece just added onto this vehicle. Now let's dive into the cargo area. Now to be expected, this is not a power hatch, but instead the old traditional release. Now once it rises out of the way, what you're looking at is around about 18 cubic feet of space. Now that's really going to be a lot more than the average sedan, creeping into the modest area in a full-size SUV. Now with all the seating laid down, going to be around about 48 cubic feet. One area you may like, instead of putting the bags on the cargo floor and let them sling around, well, is right here on the side wall, and these nice baggage holders. Now, there's 2 on this side and 2 on the other. Realize to keep the packages off the floor. Now, one other area is this little compartment right here. Pop it off. I'm not sure exactly what you would put in here, maybe a first aid kit. Then you can put the compartment back and eventually close it up. Now, under the floor, what you're going to find, not room for extra gear, but instead a spare tire just in case you need it. You're also going to find 4 anchor points, and that's going to help you cast a net, lock it in place, pretty much keep your cargo from sliding around, because after all, this carpet is quite slick. Now, one thing you're not going to find back here is a power outlet. Now, when you look around, nothing on the sidewalls, nowhere to be found, because this is a good area to take a seat and have a nice tailgating party, because plenty of height here. But without any power, no electronics, what's the fun? With a small SUV, you don't need a lot of power in the hood. Well, and Trax delivers just that, a 1.4 liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine. Now, it delivers around about 138 horses and 148 foot-pounds of torque. Now, what does that translate to? Well, good power when you're up and running, with a little bit of scream from 0 to 60. Now, what we do like is the fuel economy, because after all, we went all the way across the state, so we really want to see good numbers at the gas pump. Now, what we average is between 26 to 34 miles per gallon, with the all-wheel drive model losing just a little bit. When you climb inside the Chevy Trax, one thing you have to remind yourself is that this is actually a small SUV, because it feels, well, a lot bigger. One thing with the cathedral-like headroom and decent legroom, specifically in the back, around about 35 inches. Now, what's great is you can transport this from people into cargo real easy. Well, kind of easy. The way you do it is you first start with the cushion down here. Pull this forward, tumble it. This is going to give you an area to put the seat back. Now, once you pull the handle, this is going to tumble forward. Oops, we got to take the headrest out. Now, once you do that, you pretty much fiddle, pull this out, throw that back there. Now it will tumble forward. Now, this is around about a 60-40 split, pretty much allow you to keep people here and cargo. One thing to make this easier is maybe simplifying this part. If you're looking to power accessories, you may not want to use the USB connections, but instead the full power outlet you'll find between the front 2 seats. Now, it really worked out well charging an iPad on the road. Looking a little bit more at the legroom, one thing I like is, well, I'm 6 feet plus tall, and getting back here doesn't feel too bad. And one area that helps is these nice niches. Now, this is something that really, when SUVs do it right, this is where it feels comfortable. Nice upright, the seating is quite good, my knees aren't too high, and really these niches handle my size quite well. When you get into the front seat, this is where it gets a little bit compact feeling. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, but what helped with that is the to and fro of this front seat. Really allowed me to stretch out even better. The steering wheel came along for the ride. Now, this particular model had power front seat and a manual passenger seat. Now, what was awkward was moving this front seat forward, because instead of the traditional moving bar underneath the seat, it had more of a handle on the left side, making a little bit of a learning curve. Now, what I do like up here is the comfort for the driver, not necessarily for the passenger, because after all, the driver gets a nice armrest. Too bad for them. Looking at the creature comforts up front, pretty much everything focused right around the front occupants. Nice 4 cup holders just between the front seats, even 2 more when you fold down the center divide between the back occupants as well. Now, on the dash, pretty much keeping it simple with 3 climate control knobs, a small kind of touchscreen system. Didn't have a navigation, but had all the other technology like Bluetooth, and you do have kind of an innovative gauge cluster, just a tachometer and a digital readout for the speed. Now, if you like the old analog for the speed, you're not going to find it here. Now, if you love little niches, there are tons in this vehicle, really starting right here at the door. Now, one thing I like is really keeping the things out of your pocket on a long trip and putting them right here on the door. This allows you to have everything in quick access. Now, a lot of vehicles make this a through handle, pretty much meaning you put anything here, it's going to fall down. Now, there's a niche here, even a lower one, and a nice long pocket here on the door. Now, it's going to even hold a bottle, and what I like is my good old gum wrappers hide there like a little trash can. Now, have you ever dropped anything and it really fall right here beside the seat and you can't get to it? Well, what I find is they have a little bit of fabric here. It almost protects it from falling down and shifts it a little bit to the side. That's going to help you from losing anything in these weird niches that a lot of vehicles have. Now, 1 glove compartment is good, but why not have like 2 or 3? Well, that's what this vehicle does. On the dash, it has the standard big one, a small one where the USB connection is, and even a smaller one right there on the dash, made to put some sunglasses or something really small that's going to fit in there. Now, does it for this edition of Road Warrior, and I test drive behind the wheel of the 2016 Chevy Trax, the downsizing of the SUV market. Now, what we liked is it offered just a little bit of each feature, just enough cargo, just enough interior volume, and, well, just enough power on the hood. All that combined gave us just enough SUV. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.